So yesterday we have discussed the 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. Do you have any confusion or any problem related to that? Okay. Then today we will discuss one more thing related to local self-government, that is PESA, Panchayat Extension to Schedule Area Act. Now the background is that the 73rd Amendment Act is related to rural areas. And the sole purpose of 73rd Amendment Act is rural development along with poverty alleviation. We can say that. The origin of 73rd Amendment Act, we can say that are these two reasons. So these are the purpose of 73rd Amendment Act. But 73rd Amendment Act does not apply to some specific areas. It not applied in some specific areas. What kind of areas? So the areas which are mentioned in Article 244. The areas which are mentioned in Article 244. Now what is Article 244? Have you heard it or not? Is related to schedule areas. Schedule areas. And if we talk about schedule areas, then schedule area are of two categories. That is, one is under Schedule 6 and one is under Schedule 5th. So in 5th schedule, 73rd Amendment Act is not implemented. And the PESA Act is related to the 5th schedule area. Now what is 5th schedule areas? So first we try to understand the schedule, what is schedule area or what is Article 244 clause 1. So as far as Article 244 clause 1 is concerned, it says that President may notify any, what is that? Yeah, and there is an Article 244 says that the provisions of the 5th schedule shall apply to the administration and control of schedule area and schedule tribal area in any state other than state of Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. Okay. At present there are 10 states which comes under Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 is related to areas within the northeastern areas. We will discuss Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 also in detail. So as far as PESA is concerned, PESA is related to these areas. Now why the special arrangement has been made for these areas? For that we need to understand some basic difference between the mainstream rural areas and the areas of schedule, the areas which are declared as schedule area. So as far as the areas which are declared as schedule area is concerned, so the schedule areas are such areas where the inhabitants are schedule class citizen, that is scheduled tribes, and that we call them Adivasis. Now, how the general life are different? How the general life are different? So, if we talk about the tribal life, then we can say that they are more close to the nature. Their main economic activity is related to the nature, that is forest products, natural agriculture, and like that, those things. Now, we can say that the tribal community, or that we call them Adivasis, are related to nature. And over the decades, in order of development of the society, they are exploited. How they are exploited? So simple, if we take an example, that suppose that if the government has to establish an industry, then in periphery it will lead to the construction of roads, establishment of small town near the industry, and for all these activities they need land. And for land they will cut the forest. Recently there was an incidence of Telangana where they have cut a forest, and then the judiciary has intervened in that scenario and said that the government should plant such number of trees. There was many videos went on viral related to those things. Now, if we talk about historical perspectives of tribal rights on the forest, so we can see that initially the forests are the, similarly if we go back in the history, then we can assume that the forests are located on such areas where there is plenty of water, or we can say that where there is a river, there is a possibility that there may be a forest. So initially, along with the rivers, tribal population were present. With the frequent invasions, they went on to the sideline, because these areas, the areas along with rivers, are captured by the aliens. Why? Because initially the habitation is possible only on the banks of river due to availability of water, due to availability of fertile soil and such things. Availability of water decides the settlement of a particular area. For example, you will see the population density of Bihar, West Bengal is far more than the Rajasthan. Why? Because these areas are plain areas, availability of rivers, alluvial soil, and this is because of Ganga plain, Ganga and Brahmaputra plain, we can say that. But in Rajasthan there are deserts, or in Gujarat also there are cold desert. In Rajasthan there is a hot desert, and the population density is far more low than the Bihar or West Bengal. If we see on a statistics basis, on the basis of area, Rajasthan is the largest state of the country, but in terms of population it comes far below to it. Then come the Britishers, who has invaded in these areas, who try to control the forest, because they with the arrival of Britishers, we can say that they also tried to invade in the forest because of their requirement for bamboos, requirement for the plants, and requirement of the certain type of land for do plantations, and requirement of the labors. We can say that Britishers have invaded in the life of tribes because requirement of woods for the railways and infrastructure construction, requirement of particular land for plantation, that is cultivation of tea, coffee, like that thing. Then Britishers need labor, so they invaded into the forest, and in 1927 they brought up an act which is known as Indian Forest Act. In 1927 they brought up an act, Indian Forest Act 1927. What this act? Through this act, the Britishers has taken many of inhabitant rights, or we can say that inheritance rights of the tribal people, and slowly and gradually they declared that the forests are the sources of, or we can say that forests are the occupant of the state government, or we can say the particularly government. So on such things and in similar ways they have invaded the lives of the tribal. Similarly, we can say that during British period only they have introduced a common judicial system in which the traditions and culture of forest of the tribals community gets deteriorated, or we can say that there is an infiltration within the cultural and traditional methods of the tribal people. This also leads to the depletion of tribal community. Now there is a question here, is that which areas how we can define a forest? What is the definition of forest? Which area we can say that this is a forest area or not? Is there any definition? So the forests are defined under Indian Forest Act 1927. In 1927, the definition of forest are given. Similarly, in around 1995 or 1996, the definition of forest was enlarged by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has elaborated the definition of forest, and with the concrete definition of this, the Supreme Court had says that if there is any village forest, if there is any village forest, any type of village forest on any revenue land, on any revenue land. What is revenue land? The land from where taxation can be collected. What type of taxation? Agriculture taxation, where agriculture is possible. So if there is any village forest on a revenue land, then this forest will also comes under the ambit of forest. And then there are certain things related to Forest Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Protection Act, because to maintain the stability of life on the earth, there should be it is necessary to have trees for food chain, oxygen and such things. So this is what the relation between forest and these things. Basically, on the forest, the tribals depend for the forest. The tribal population depend upon the forest for certain things like minor forest produce, there are many herbal things. For example, initially the tribal uses the mahua tree for oil extraction for the cooking food, and there are numerous example how they are dependent upon the forest. Now, if we talk about the tribal population, so what is the exact population of the tribal? It has been constituted around 8 to 9%. On an average, 8 to 9% of total population are tribal population. And among, if we go around it, then we can say that within this, on an average, around 50% population of tribals are under BPL, below poverty line, and around 40% tribal population are displaced throughout the India at some point of time from one place to another. So they are the ones who faces cerebral displacement. Now, why it has been important to have a special local government act for them? So to this we can say that out of all the districts present in the India, around 75 districts in the country constitute more than 50% population is of tribal population. In 75 districts of the India, 50 plus percentage are of tribal population. And if we talk about of Jharkhand, then how many districts within the Jharkhand which have 50 or more percentage of tribal population? So I think it's three districts are there in which the tribal population is more than 50%, and the concentration of tribal is highest in which state? Madhya Pradesh, 14, around 14 point like thing. What about Jharkhand? So this is what the status of tribal population in India, and then the relation of tribals with the forest. Now we come back to the topic, that is PESA. So initially the provisions of 73rd amendment was not implemented in such areas. Now, by seeing the development or by observing the result or outcome of the 73rd Constitution Amendment Act, the government has decided to implement local self-government within the 5th schedule area also. And for this, the same government who has implemented 73rd Amendment Act, that is the government under Mr. Rao, has constituted a committee known as Bhuria Committee. Has constituted a committee known as Bhuria Committee to recommend the possibilities of local self-government within the areas of schedule areas, that is the areas which cover under 5th schedule. And the chairman of this Bhuria committee is Mr. Dilip Singh Bhuria, and constituted in 1994, and they have and it gives its report in 1995, presented its reports in 1995. Constituted in 1994 and given its report, presented its reports in 1995, and the chairman was Mr. Dilip Singh Bhuria. Now, what is its recommendation? So, Bhuria committee has recommended that there should be a 3-tier structure. 3-tier structure that is similar to the Panchayati Raj institution that we have established, or we can say that same type of structure it recommended for the same type of structure that was recommended by Balwant Rai Mehta committee. Now, as far as this committee is concerned, so it has said that there should be a Gram Sabha at first level. There should be a Gram Sabha who should look upon the natural resources, and also works to resolve the conflicts. And maintain certain institutions, manage certain institutions that are important for the tribal population. Then there should be a Gram Panchayat. There should be a Gram Panchayat who should serve as a appellate jurisdiction. Who should act as a appellate jurisdiction, and then there should be a government at block, or we can say that at taluka level. Block or at taluka. Understood? So first will be the Gram Sabha, who will be the main point of focus. Then the main function of Gram Sabha should be natural resources, resolve conflict, manage certain institutions which are important for the tribal population, and then there should be a Gram Panchayat who should act as a appellate jurisdiction. That is, if any dispute does not get resolved by the Gram Sabha, then the victim can be appealed to the upper level, and Gram Panchayat will serve as that level, and there should be a government at block or taluka level. So this is the recommendation of Bhuria Committee related to the local self government within the tribal areas. Now, then the PESA Act was enacted in 1996. After this committee's recommendation, PESA Act was enacted in 1996. What is PESA? Panchayat Extension for Schedule Area Act 1996. 73rd was enacted in introduced in 1992, enacted in 1993 on 24th of April, and this was enacted in 1996. Now, what is the main mandate of this act? So, the main mandate of this act is management of resources, what kind of resources? Basically, those resources which are related to forest and which are important for the tribal community. Then responsibility, of what? Local self government, participatory democracy, engagement of tribal people, empowering the tribal communities, and then last is decision making. So these are the mandate of this act. Now, as far as decision making is concerned, so we know that the tribal community has its own types of governance system. It also has its own type of traditional laws. It also has its own code of conduct for the life. That's why the mandate revolves around this. And this act is implemented in 5th schedule areas. 5th schedule areas, and there are 10 states within these areas. Which are they? Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Rajasthan. So Andhra, Telangana, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. And there are particular districts of every state. Not necessarily to know the district of every state, but I would like to suggest that at least know the districts which are comes under fifth schedule of Jharkhand. So as far as Jharkhand is concerned, so I think 6 or 7 districts are there. So as far as Jharkhand is concerned, there is Dumka, Godda, Devghar, Sahibganj, Pakur, Ranchi, East Singhbhum, West Singhbhum, Gumla, Simdega, Lohardaga, Palamu, Garhwa. Some districts are only partially travel blocks. So these are the states where PESA Act was implemented. Now, what type of powers are endowed to the PESA Act? Before discussing the power that was endowed to the local government through PESA Act, we can say that the purpose behind PESA Act is to empower the tribal community, to enhance their social, economic and political conditions. To write down that PESA is meant to recognize empower and promote the social, economic, cultural and political way of life of scheduled tribes. Now, through the PESA Act, the state government are directed to endow following things to the local self government. What are the following things? That is, certain things upon which the power will remain in the hand of local government. What are the things? So first, related to the first and foremost important thing is that the sale and consumption of intoxicant. Sales and consumption of intoxicant. The intoxicant are their part of culture. Therefore, this is the most important thing. Then next is ownership of minor forest produce. Ownership of minor forest produce. Then power to prevent alienation of land. Alienation of land. What is alienation of land? Related to sale, mortgage, like those things. Then next is restoration of unlawfully alienated land. Then next is management of village market. Management of village market. Then control over money lending. So anything related to this related to following things, the power will be transferred to the local government as per PESA Act. Now, another thing is that under PESA Act, the local government should have a power to approve plans and programs for social and economic development. For social and economic development. For social and economic development of whom? Of tribal population. The next is identification of beneficiaries for the above plans and program. Then next is utilization of funds by local government, that is by Gram Sabha. How the fund will be utilized. Next is consultation before acquisition of land. Consultation before acquisition of land. So these are the 10 points. Related to which powers are transferred to the Gram Sabha. Now if we look at the points, then we have seen that intoxicants are the part of their culture. So the sales and consumption, what type of intoxicant should be prepared and how much should be brought up within the market for buy and sell, and how much one should consume, if how much one should consume, who should not consume, these things should be decided by the Gram Sabha, because this is related to their traditions, their culture. So state government or central government cannot decide upon these things. For example, if there is, suppose that in Bihar there is a liquor ban. Suppose if Jharkhand also announce liquor ban, then they will not ban the liquors or such things within the areas which comes under Schedule 5, because they are their part of daily life. But these are the things, intoxicants, which are naturally prepared by them. Next is ownership of minor forest produce. So their major economic contribution, or we can say that minor forest produce play an important role in their life, economic life. For example, for example, picking up of oats, then there are many, for example, mahua used by them, and all such things are used by them. So if there is a forest and if there is a any minor produce from the forest, then the ownership will be transferred to the Gram Sabha or local government. ठीक. Then power to prevent alienation of land. What is the major reason or major problem within the tribal community is related to the land, illegal capture, or we can say that infiltration by the aliens within the tribals area. So it is, and as far as tribals are concerned, it has been said that they are the they want peace, or they are not like they, and their mental state is not like the mainland people. They are not greedy, such things. So in order to prevent their tradition, their customs, it is important to stop the alienation of lands made by aliens of the tribal. So the power related to land are transferred to the Gram Sabha or the local government. Then if any land was alienated unlawfully, then power to restore it from that authority is also given to the Gram Sabha. And also, if suppose if land is to be acquired for any purpose, for mining, for industrialization, for infrastructure development, then the Gram Sabha should be consulted before then, and without consulting the local government within the Schedule 5 area, the government cannot acquire the land. Then management of village market. Why? Through market, the transaction of money, market is based upon sole principle of transaction of money. So they thought that if some sort of money or like that thing will come into their custom, then their custom will be destroyed. So they have power to manage the village market. And other thing is that if they will not manage their village market, then there is a possibility that someone from outside can go there, and then slowly and gradually they can exploit them. Then control over money lending. Why money lending? Because money lending is related to alienation of land, like such things. Then approve plans, program and social economic development. Every plans will be approved by the local government, whether they are as per their custom tradition or not, whether they are not violating their custom tradition or not, like that. Therefore, there is a need of approval from the local government. Then identification of beneficiary. Beneficiary will be identified by the local government itself, and then how the funds will be utilized by the local government will also be decided by the local government. So these are the powers and responsibility which are transferred to the local government under PESA Act, and it was instructed that state will transfer this responsibility to the local government as per PESA Act within the Schedule 5 areas. Understood or not? Okay. Then what are the different provisions within the PESA Act? So first provision is that there will be a Gram Sabha at Tola level, at Majra level. At Tola level, there should be a Gram Sabha. What is tola? Which area we will say that it is a tola? The small gathering of families, small gathering, that is the gathering within the inhabitants. Smaller areas of inhabitants are considered as a tola. For example, within a village, there are 4 or 5 tolas within a village itself. If the population of village is around 5,000 or 6,000, then there are 3-4 tolas within the village. So there will be a Gram Sabha at tola level. And what is within the 73rd Act? Gram Sabha at village level. And here is tola level. Why? Because there is a possibility that within a village there could be some tribal population and some non-tribal population. This is possible. So that's why the provision of Gram Sabha is at tola level. Then what is the responsibility of Gram Sabha? So Gram Sabha is responsible to protect the tradition, customs, beliefs, etc. of the tribal communities. So it is the sole responsibility of Gram Sabha to protect tradition, custom, beliefs of the tribal population. Then next provision is that Gram Sabha is authorized to resolve local disputes. Local disputes. Gram Sabha is responsible for resolving local disputes. Gram Sabha has ownership of collective, we can say that collective or common properties. What is common properties? Properties which are of social use, not private use. So the Gram Sabha will protect and manage the common properties. Protect and manage. Then next is all these powers related to land and money lending. All power related to land, money lending, that we have discussed earlier. That is, it will protect the alienation of land. It will try to restore unlawfully alienated land. It will control the village market. It will control the money lending. It will control the tribal activities by social things. Next is Gram Sabha will control not only village market but also village melas. Why? Because in melas also there is a economic side. That's why it has. Then 8 is power to liquor, production, management and marketing, all these things. Then 9 is district panchayat. What is district panchayat? Panchayat at district level. So district panchayat within the PESA Act will have similar power as district panchayat of Schedule 6. Schedule 6, district panchayat of Schedule 6. And what are the powers of district panchayat at Schedule 6? That we will discuss when we will discuss the Schedule 6. Now, they allow that there is a provision of tribal advisory council within the 5th schedule areas. So it is the responsibility of tribal advisory committee to protect and to promote welfare of tribal population. Welfare of tribal population. If we see here, then we can assume that the more power is given to Gram Sabha, and we can say that under the PESA Act, it is the Gram Sabha which is the basic unit of governance. We can say that it is the Gram Sabha which is the basic unit of the governance. And the basic, or we can say the main purpose of PESA Act is to protect the tribal population from exploitation from non-tribal population. So this is it. And the PESA, it has been said that the PESA Act should always be read in conjunction with the Schedule 5. That is, the PESA Act will become meaningful without Schedule 5. So it always should be read as a conjunction with Schedule 5. And the PESA Act has been formed on the recommendation of Bhuria Committee constituted by the Rao government in the year of 1995. Now, this is the government provision. Now, if we look at that, whether the PESA has achieved their desired goal or not, or we can say that whether the PESA is a myth or a reality. So what are the practical implications of PESA Act? Myth or reality? There are certain issues related to PESA Act. For example, the main important, or we can say that after so many years, it has been said that the PESA remains as a paper tiger. The PESA remains as a paper tiger. That is, it is more powerful, more attractive, more lucrative on the paper only, not on the ground level. And it has been said that at ground level there are two fundamental reasons. There are two fundamental reasons which are responsible for non-successful, or we can say that not so effectiveness of the act. What are the two? First is the willpower of government. Willpower of government. What is willpower of government? That is, we can say that, or we can say that mindset of government functionaries. They does not want to make PESA Act more powerful, or they does not want that PESA wholly implemented on the ground level. Why? Because through this the Gram Sabha become more powerful, and the meaning of then tribal advisory councils and government will decreases. And the most criticizing point of politics is that politician never wants to share their power with any other one. So, and there are certain cases and certain examples where the tribals are treated as inferior species, or we can say that inferior citizens. There are many numerous examples. Recently, there is a there is a case from Madhya Pradesh where a people has been forced to eat the seed of a human being. There are some issues related to, so such instances are also there. Then there are certain laws of state government. There are certain laws of state government that totally neglect the PESA Act. The state always try to neglect the PESA Act. Similarly, if we see the normal panchayati institutions and municipal institutions, if we take an example from Jharkhand, then we can say that the local government in Jharkhand are not so powerful, or in any state or in many states of the country. What was the sole purpose or sole motivation behind introduction of 73rd and 74th Amendment Act is not achieved yet. There are some success stories from Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, from these states, or we can say that from southern states like Andhra, Telangana, and then the Kerala types. But in most of the districts, what was the core objective or core purpose behind introduction of 73rd and 74th Amendment Act was not achieved. I think we are in the 38th or 34th year of the amendment, and in many of the states the local government does not have authority to do so. Why? Because they have given the responsibility but not the power. They have given the functionaries but not the finances, and without finances how will they manage the functions? Similar things is related to PESAs. The state laws also always try to avoid or neglect the PESA Act. Now, another thing that we can see here is that the PESA is implemented in rural areas. And it is the power of state government, or it is in the jurisdiction of state government to define any area as a rural area or as a urban area. So there are various cases or various instances where the government has declared schedule area as a urban areas in order to overlap the PESA. There is an example that around 600 areas, around and more than 600 areas, more than 600 areas where the tribal where the tribal population are there are declared as a urban area. Why? In order to avoid the PESA Act. Why? Because there is no PESA Act or such act for the urban areas. And no one is talking about this. There are certain examples or certain cases in certain instance where many of the individual has expressed the myth about PESA Act at ground level. Then there is a writer, historian, Mr. Ramchandra Guha, who was on the tour of Chhattisgarh when the Naxalism was at peak. Then he has said that the people, the tribal people are become like a, we can say that onion in the pizza. They are pressed by both the sides. On one side they need to tackle with mouse, and on other side they need to tackle with the police. We can say that the PESA become a myth because of government apathy. Because of government apathy. What is government apathy? Lack of sympathizing. This is one example. Now, another thing is that what about bureaucrats? Industrialists. If we talk about the industrialist, so they need land for mining, for industrialization, and for any other activities. Their sole business is depend upon the land. So what they do, there is a nexus of industrialists, bureaucrats and politicians and government, and due to which displacement this is the main reason. And one of very famous writer in his book has mentioned that the bureaucrats and corporate thinks paisa not PESA. It is in the government document. It has been said that the bureaucrats, corporates, industrialists see the paisa not the PESA. They does not have any type of sympathy or closeness to the culture, traditions of the PESA Act towards the tribal population. They only focused on the money. If we talk about the industries, there are numerous examples we can see within the Odisha, MP, Chhattisgarh, where the tribal population gets displaced due to establishment of industries. Now, industries are also important for the society and so the preservation of unique culture tradition of the tribal population. So what should be done? So government should maintain a balance among the investment and the culture of the traditions. Now, due to displacement, negligence, tribal population face many problems, and one problem is that related to malnutrition. Recently, a report has been published in which it has been said that in the cases of malnutrition, Jharkhand is amongst the top states. There is a report, I think, 7 to 10 days earlier. Huh? Yes. They have said that in terms of malnutrition, Jharkhand is among the top performers. Why the lack of malnutrition? Because of lack of nutrition. Why be lack of nutrition? Because displacement, lack of money, the apathy of the government, like such things. Now, the next thing is that how it should be improved. How it should be improved, or what government should do in order to implement the main provisions of the PESA, or we can say that what should be done in order to achieve the desired objective of PESA. What should be done? What should be done? Now, see a normal problem. There is a Ministry of Panchayat. There is a Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and there is a Ministry of Tribal Welfare. There are two ministries. What is the functions of Ministry of Panchayati Raj? To look after the Panchayati Raj. And what is the work of Tribal Welfare Ministry? And how we can see the PESA Act? The Ministry of Panchayati Raj is not only for Panchayati Raj but also to strengthen the grassroots democracy or local self-government. So what about PESA? If Ministry of Tribal Welfare has to do anything for the tribal community, then it has to work with PESA. And if Ministry of Panchayati Raj institution has to do anything to empower the local self-government, then it has to perform with PESA. So in certain cases there is a situation of overlapping. Either two situations arises here. One is of overlapping and another is of isolation. Either it works with the overlapping influence, or either it will work as a isolated form. So first, the government should look after this. Then the next important thing is that land related issues, land related issues that need to be resolved. There are numerous disputes related to land, and land is the fundamental requirement. Land is the fundamental requirement. So government should resolve these things. These are the things that should be done. The government should avoid the negligence of PESA Act. The intention conversion of rural areas into urban areas should be, the government should look after upon that. The government should perform all such activities through which it can empower the Gram Sabha. So these are the things that government should do. Now what the government have done? How PESA will be empowered? We can say that. Now what are the government initiatives? Or we can discuss more thing here, that how the PESA will be empowered. So there are certain general things that should be done, that is the awareness. Is there possible that most of the population are not aware about the provisions of PESA Act? So for that, the government need to improve education. The government should work in order to provide basic amenities to the tribal population. And what are the basic amenities? That is the food, shelter and clothes. The government should work upon the health issues. The government should work upon the skill enhancement. What type of skill enhancement? In order to improve their traditional skill. The government need to promote their culture, their traditional things, through which they will be economically empowered, and thereafter it will reflect upon the PESA Act. These things should be done by the government. Now, what all initiatives are taken by the government? So, government has taken multiple initiatives. If we talk about the education, then for girls of ST community, the government has started residential school system. Central level also, or I think in government of Jharkhand also working towards it. Then through Biodiversity Act, the government has tried to protect or preserve the traditional knowledge of tribals with respect to herbs and biological product. Through Biodiversity Act protects traditional knowledge of tribes related to herbs and biological product. And what else government has done? there are many welfare schemes run by the government. How we can say that this type of things. So these are the things. The in Forest Act also they have preserved certain rights of the tribal through the different laws they have discussed. I think we need to discuss some points here also. That is, apart from this, what should be done that in order to empower the Gram Sabha, the government should work on mission mood to strengthen the Gram Sabhas. What type of mission mood? That they should be given grants. Gram Sabha should be given the grants so that independently they can work. Grants provided to the Gram Sabha. Then the transfer, acquisition, alienation of land process should be made transparent so that information should be provided. Then the village should be there should be a delimitations. There should be a practice of delimitations. Then the government should encourage the women to take part in it, because the society of tribal is based upon the equality between the men and women. So these are the things. Then the government should involve NGOs and civil society organization. NGOs and civil society organization to empower the Gram Sabha to ensure awareness like these things. So these are the things that should be done by the government in order to strengthen the PESA Act and in order to implement PESA in letter and spirit. So this is all about the PESA Act. If you have any confusion, then you may ask, or okay, then we will continue from here in next class.